Hi, my name is Jay Sugarman, and I want to welcome you to Museum Open House. This ongoing series features and highlights many of the outstanding museums and other cultural institutions. The main purpose of most programs is to inform viewers about current and upcoming exhibits, various programs, resources, and other opportunities that are available for the general public. As we've learned from previous programs, art has the power to tell stories, preserve traditions, challenge assumptions, and invite us to see the world through new eyes. Few exhibitions accomplish all of those goals as powerfully as Ascending the Liberation of Native Art, now on view at the WaterFire Arts Center in Providence. This remarkable exhibition brings together contemporary Native artists whose work is deeply rooted in cultural heritage while boldly embracing innovation, personal expression, and the realities of Native life today. Rather than viewing Indigenous art solely through the lens of history or tradition, Ascending celebrates Native artists as dynamic, evolving voices whose work speaks to identity, resilience, community, memory, and the future. Today, we're fortunate to be joined by the exhibition's lead curator, artist Brooke Waldron, whose vision has helped shape this compelling presentation. We're also pleased to welcome featured artists Kathy Atkins, Julia Marden, and Scott Foster. Together, they'll share the inspiration behind their work, the stories they tell through their art, and their perspectives on what it means to create as Indigenous artists in the 21st century. Let's start by meeting our distinguished guest. Welcome. So delighted you're all able to be here.
Gonna
Thank
be
you.
here.
A few days ago, I had the wonderful opportunity to visit the exhibition, learn so much, eager to find out more and have you inform viewers. Brooke, would you please start by sharing what inspired the vision for Ascending the Liberation of Native Art, and what does the word liberation signify within the context of this exhibition?
Great. Thank you so much, Jay. And again, we appreciate, you taking the time to visit the show. I would say that it's maybe less of a singular inspiration as it was a convergence of circumstances, relationships, and opportunity that
Hmm.
sort of led to what would produce this project and the natural sort of slow burn of how that develops. And so some of that is my own experience exhibiting work over the years and also visiting other shows that presented Native work and sort of my perspective in feeling maybe uninspired by some of the projects I had seen curated either sort of outside within our Northeast region. And as Native people, our shared human experience really has been largely defined by legislative government and historical, right, an uninformed public. And so when given the opportunity to really to answer your question on liberation, it's self-liberation, really, that I'm sort of connecting there. And so that is important for structural change. And to do this, one way we can accomplish that is really through gallery networks, right? Is system changes through gallery networks, through public institutions, and through direct investment into the artists themselves.
Hmm.
And so that is a really critical place where power dynamics can be reoriented and sort of disrupted. And I think the arts sector for our communities, and this is my perspective, art is really not a strong enough word to define the methods of creation that really sort of across the United States help define Native artists, but also just knowledge keepers and how we exist here in our own shared human experience.
Building on that, many visitors may arrive with preconceived ideas about Native art. What assumptions do you hope this exhibition challenges?
In reference to assumptions, I always love to assume that folks that visit our exhibitions already are learners. And they enjoy the arts. And so that always makes me feel good because they're there, because they're interested in the show. And so, an assumption of historical context that Native people have been so sort of systematically erased from our historical narrative and our contemporary narrative. I hope that they see this show and are excited and that they see a diverse self-expression and that they get curious. Like really curiosity, I think is where I would hope that folks would leave with like an interest to go to the next one that they see or to engage in the community process with more attention.
Before we enjoy and hear from some of the participating artists, could you share how Ascending balances honoring cultural traditions while celebrating artistic innovation and experimentation?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't feel that I can be an expert on how, what I know I learned from previous generations, what was taught to me and through my friendship and relationships, not only with the artists in the show, but even folks that, we're meeting all the time. And ascending, of course, is an upward movement. And so I'm trying to draw this correlation that we're still in development. It is constant, it's evolving always. And that is really critical to, I think, Native arts and the future of Native arts and sort of inspiring our youth and other community members that may feel like they don't belong in these spaces. And the historical narrative, of course, is the sort of the life way of who we are and what connects and translates sort of across different tribes and tribal communities. So that to me is easy. It's the other side of making sure that it has balance to our lived experiences, currently is what I think art can do.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And look forward to hearing some of your commentary about your own work in a little bit into the program. Scott, welcome. Delighted you're able to be here. Could you start by introducing us to these incredible greeting banners? Very engaging, set the tone for the whole exhibition, I feel, when one comes to the WaterFire Arts Center.
Well, I'll start by introducing myself. Kanapiem, uh, Motampin Wani, Naktishwish Kwan Union Medikishu, Wani Kog Kishkog Tuwank, Nu Hasanmisko Nitmuk, Kit Tu Mit Nipnet. And what I said in my Algonquin language is welcome. Good morning. My name is Stronghawk. It's good to be here with you.
Fabulous.
And I went on to say that I'm from the Haskell Band. Which is the place of small stones. And we occupied our ancestral homeland was Central Mass, Western Rhode Island, and into the Connecticut River Valley. Um, so to speak specifically to the banners that hang outside, which I'm very grateful, and I try to get representatives from each band. In the center is Chief Dean Stanton. To the right is Jasmine Godspeed, who's Nipmuc. Chief is the chief of the Narragansett tribe. And then Lauren Sun Turtle is Mashpee Wampanoag. Charlie Eagletail is Narragansett, and he is also Mi'kmaq. And to the far left is Nadeja, who is Aquina Wampanoag. So the beauty behind the banners to me is that these are representations of our community. We've been taught for so long in our school system that Native people are savages, and the images that they portray or showcase in our textbooks, and back when I was 15, I saw one of them, is that we were not good people. And the first image I saw was of a native man standing over a female settler, pulling her hair up by the with his
Mm.
hand from the turf of her skull and getting ready to strike her with a tomahawk, and a burning cabin in the background. That's how we were portrayed in the history books or his story books. What I tried to do, or what I'm attempting to do, is remove that burning cabin. So that way you look at the beauty of us and see the true nature of us, because when you look at these banners or these images, you almost have a conversation with them mentally. You look at them, you're looking at their clothing, you're wondering what they're saying or thinking,
Mhm.
and you get to appreciate who we are, told by us, not by our subjugators. So I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to, display them there as a greeting. We'll welcome you into the gallery to take a look at all the other artists' work and representation of who we are.
No, it's a very eloquent way to sort of approach and begin the exhibition. And I know we could hear much more, but when we do enter, we're fortunate to see some of your other work, series of very thoughtful, thought-provoking photographs. A few words about what this woman is enjoying in front of her.
This is two images from my series, Ways of My Ancestors, Imagery Lighting the Path to Awareness. And what my goal here is to look at utilizing the imagery of Native people with a black backdrop. But what I've done is I've merged colonial documents, institutions, and ways of thinking
Mm.
that help build this country, but at the expense of dismantling Native American community and culture. To what the one that she's working or looking at is of a Native man who appears to be intoxicated. And it's a quote from Benjamin Franklin's autobiography, where they actually realized the impact of alcohol on Native communities. So they weaponized it. And it's called Planting the Seeds of Genocide. And basically, Ben Franklin is endorsing it. He says, well, if it worked for the seacoast to remove the Indians of the seacoast, then we should use it going forward. And the goal was to extirpate Native people from the land any way possible. That's a mentality of colonization. To the right is significant because it's the 250th celebration of the Declaration of Independence. Well, in that image there is a Native woman who is Mohegan, and she's standing in front of the Declaration of Independence. And a quick story behind that, I discovered on a T-shirt that um, Thomas Jefferson inked into the Declaration of Independence and referred to us as uh, merciless Indian savages. And I didn't
Yeah.
believe it. I'm like, what? Because we're not taught these things in the classroom. So I did my research and I found out, in fact, that it was actually true. So I then went to try to find that in the Declaration, couldn't find it, confirmed that it was there until I purchased a souvenir copy. Still couldn't read it because the ink was too thick and it was too thin and it was in script. So I laid this thing out with a feather, sweetgrass, tobacco, and sage, three of the sacred plants of Native people, and I placed them down arbitrarily. And then I realized that, okay, I wanted to represent New England with a piece of wampum. Long story short, I got home. I said, oh my God, I hope I didn't cover that text because I still hadn't found it yet. And believe it or not, where that feather is standing right now, the tip was literally the line above merciless Indian savages.
Mm.
And it wasn't because I placed it there intentionally. I just placed it there arbitrarily because I thought, oh, that looks good here, here, here. And it was as if my ancestor was saying, hey, man, it's right here. And I
Oh,
searched for over a year and a half to find it. So that made, to me, that image that much more powerful because
most
I
definitely.
believe my ancestors were speaking to me. I was looking for it, couldn't find it, and they showed me the way. So this series, in short, is just essentially these are two of six that I have. I plan to do 15 in total, utilizing, colonial documents, institutions, and ways of thinking to highlight and remove that burning cabin and
Yeah.
replace them with tools and instruments of genocide.
No, your work is very powerful, so enlightening. The two instances with Ben Franklin and Thomas Jefferson were shocking for me and so informative to find out when I toured the exhibition. Thank you. As we move on, Julia, welcome. Picking up on Scott's commentary with regard to genocide, we have three pieces here, the architects of genocide. Would you share your very engaging work with us?
Wanikisak. Good day. Uh, yes, several years ago, viewers may have remembered a story of the Kamloops residential school and the discovery that was found on those grounds. That's the third belt on the bottom of this series. It was the first one I made. And when that story broke, it was haunting me. And I just started receiving images that I knew I had to map out and create a story belt, which was one of our forms. I should have mentioned that these are traditional wampum belts. They're made with glass beads. The original would have been made from quahog and whelk, which we are very well known for. The word wampum actually comes from the Wampanoag language. So if people are familiar with the quahog shell and what wampum is. So one of the purposes of documenting our history, we used wampum belts for that purpose. So I'm getting a little off track from my original first belt, but I think a little history is extremely important in understanding.
Sure.
Another myth is that we had no written language, no documentation. So this might not be pen to paper, but this absolutely is documenting our history. And storytellers would go community to community through the winter months and recite these belts and recite our history so that it was not forgotten or lost. So that was our method of documentation, and we still do it today. And that's what this three belt series is. So going back to this bottom belt, when that story broke, I had to map that out. So that's the first one on here. But I realized that's not the beginning of the story. So if you go to the top, this one is called The Doctrine of Discovery. And so I don't have the exact dates, but back in the 1400s, the Pope basically declared that wherever they went, you can go worldwide. And if you come to a land where the people do not worship Jesus and Christianity, we have no rights to our land. And so it was declared, and that's what basically happened. That's our history. So that belt starts, the top belt, it starts with Vatican, and then you see the Pope making the declaration. Then that was passed on to the kings to send out their army to colonize the world, make the world England. So then you have the clipper ship was their mode of transportation to reach these lands. And then you see them landing and basically the symbolic of planting a flag and claiming ownership over the lands that they discovered. So the set had to start there. And then The middle belt is called the Indian Removal Act, which hopefully people are aware of. But this history is something not widely taught.
Most
So,
definitely.
this is so important. So this one is based on the Cherokee Trail of Tears.
Exquisite work. As we move on, just for the sake of time, just a very short commentary, unfortunately for our time,
Sure,
on
sure.
this.
So this is my doll set. They're called Ininawag, which translates to the people. So I wanted to show, when the English did show up on our shores, this is basically how we would have been dressed. It's our traditional Wampanoag dress. It's deerskin clothing. Everything is pre-contact except for the glass beads. The glass
Yeah.
beads are miniature of the type of beads that we would have been trading for, which
Yeah.
trade started 100 years, prior to the English colonizing, documented, and was going on prior to that also.
Thank you. Moving on, Kathy, welcome. Speaking of exquisite craftsmanship, would you please share some of the work that's on display for the exhibition of yours?
Sure. Thank you for inviting me to join you today, Jay. I really appreciate you and Brooke for inviting me for this wonderful exhibit that she has. The beadwork that I do is actually a three-dimensional beadwork. Underneath the first layer of beads is another layer. So we've got actually 3 layers of beads to create a three-dimensional effect. I sew on velvet, and the moccasins itself are all handmade. The skirt, the ribbons, the material are all produced through different native entities that I use for my supplies. I go back to a lot of my beadwork and through my designs in my beadwork through my family. My family has been beading since, gosh, I don't know how long, probably in the 1800s. We've actually been documented through our family history that we have pictures of our old beadwork from back then. We do a lot of our beadwork through family gatherings. Then every once in a while, I'll go back to New York. That's where I'm originally from the Haudenosaunee Iroquois tribe, Tuscarora. And we do a lot of our sitting around the tables, discussing things, and we bead. I believe that a lot of the beadwork that I've used for my creations go back through the generations when a lot of the 1800 ladies would set up their beadwork at the Niagara Falls and sell to the colonists that used to come in from England. I believe that my inspiration comes from that and through my family. My mom was a avid beadworker. My grandmother was. Now that I am no longer on the reservation, I live in Florida and I'm considered an urban Indian. I try to keep the creations and my culture active, working with very many youth in my area and also going back into New York to be able to create more designs and to look at the nature of where I come from. A lot of my beadwork is inspired by nature itself.
What do you hope people notice or think about as they spend time with your art?
I'm hoping that they actually appreciate the fact that Native Americans are still here. We still appreciate our clothing, our footwear, our artwork, and that when they look at my artwork, they can appreciate the fact that this comes from generations. This comes from generations of people that have done beadwork. Our clan, I'm from the Bear clan, And a lot of my inspiration comes from the different works that I see in nature involving the bears.
Terrific. Well, wish we had more time to hear about the creative process that goes into it. Perhaps we can catch up with you on a future program. But thank you for sharing for today. And Brooke, as we move on, there are several other artists not able to join us today, but we have a few examples of their work. Could you share what we are appreciating in front of us now?
Yeah, of course. Both of these pipes are made by individuals who I would certainly consider to be master wampum makers, although I don't know that they necessarily would agree. Their work is just absolutely, the craftsmanship here is incredible. We have, facing sort of from my perspective on the right there is Alan Hazard. He's a Narragansett tribal member, and he is the mentor of Joshua Carter, represented on the left. Both pipes made from the shell that Julia so beautifully described to us is so critical to the identity of the Northeast Native communities, and cedar, which is also a very important I would say tree, but relative plant that we use in our sort of really, I guess from coast to coast, the cedar is pretty important to all of us. So really beautiful examples that I'm very honored to have presented in this show for sure.
And there are good examples, as with all the other items we're appreciating. Wonderful to see the image, but really need to see in person to appreciate the craftsmanship. Just a couple of words about this artist.
Yep, this is our good friend Micaiah. She is a very unique artist. She's also a traditional tattoo, poke and stick tattoo artist. And that sort of style comes up a lot in her 2D work. And she has a piece there, which we don't see a lot of 2D work from Micaiah. So I was very excited that she made this for this show that really speaks to her perspective on land and water and sort of her connection or her community's connection to that.
And throughout the exhibition are several examples in different mediums of your wonderful artistry. We see in the upper left there an example, a couple of words about the corn planter.
Sure, it is hard to see with the reflection there. Corn planter really refers to a storyline about Crow's role in bringing corn to the people. And so he flies to the sun. He gets so close it turns his feathers black. And so some of us, of course, know the story. I think viewers may not, but he can then be seen in the fall taking his payment for his trip by taking the extra corn kernels from the cornfields, and we should all let him do so. And that's what that painting there represents.
And as I mentioned, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to see some other examples of your wonderful work, hopefully another occasion. In closing, Brooke, the last minute or even less, if visitors could leave remembering just one idea from the exhibition, what would you hope it would be?
I would say diverse, right? Native people are diverse, our lived experiences, and we are an exceptionally talented group and generationally connected to what Kathy, Julius, all of us really have mentioned is this theme of like decentralizing us. We are a piece of our community, and that is very exhibited in even the act of creation and the art that we make. And so I would say I hope that folks really can start to get behind that investment of Northeast Native work, and that I can see that represented in every institution on the East Coast.
Well said. Well, you and your colleagues definitely accomplished it with the exhibition. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of our time and just want to wish all of you continued success with future endeavors.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Also want to thank those of you watching for joining us and hope you'll be able to tune in next time.